Welcome the Lord's chosen. Power doesn't chase people unless they accidentally reveal something that power wasn't prepared to see. That's where this story begins. Because whether you believe it or not, someone with real influence, real reach, and real authority just noticed something about you that most people overlook. Not something dramatic, not something loud, something subtle enough to slip past ordinary eyes, but sharp enough to grab the attention of someone who doesn't waste their gaze on randomness. Here's a fact. Human beings process more than 11 million sensory impressions every second, but consciously register less than 50. Powerful people, though, those who sit at the top, are trained, conditioned, and sometimes scarred enough to notice the things no one else catches. They scan rooms the way surgeons study X-rays, and the moment their eyes landed on you, something didn't add up. Something didn't match your environment. Something about your presence disagreed with everything around you. And trust me, when someone with power senses an anomaly, they don't shrug and walk away. No, they pause, they rewind, they observe, they analyze. They start paying attention the way you do when you hear your full government name from the other room, not sure what's coming, but you're suddenly very alert. Maybe it was the way you carried yourself without needing anyone to validate it. Maybe it was the kind of calm that doesn't come from pretending, but from surviving things you don't talk about. Or maybe it was the subtle confidence you didn't even realize you were projecting, the kind that slips out by accident like a cough you tried to hide. Whatever it was, it struck them, and now they're watching more closely than they expected to. Not in a creepy way, relax, but in that, who exactly is this person, and why do they feel like an unfinished chapter I need to read? Kind of way. This isn't flattery, it's recognition. You triggered the one thing people at the top can't ignore, a presence that doesn't match the label the world tried to give you. And once they notice someone like that, they don't forget. They get curious. And curiosity in the hands of powerful people turns into obsession very fast. Number one, you carry attention they can't decode, and powerful people are addicted to what they can't read. There's a certain kind of tension you move with, and it's not the nervous type people wear on their sleeves. It's the quiet kind, the type that makes others pause without knowing why. You don't overshare. You don't scramble to prove yourself. You don't rush to fill empty spaces with unnecessary words. You exist in a way that makes people feel like there's more happening beneath the surface than you're showing. And people with real influence, they pick up on that sort of thing instantly. Powerful individuals have spent years, sometimes decades, learning how to read people for survival. They rely on patterns, tells, emotional slips, and predictable behaviors. Most people crack open easily. Their fears leak out. Their intentions show up uninvited. Their insecurities announce themselves before they even speak. But with you, it's different. You carry yourself with a kind of internal pressure that isn't loud but isn't weak either. It's like your presence hints at something unfinished, something evolving, something they can't label in 5 seconds. And that unsettles them. They don't know if you're holding back out of discipline, out of experience, or out of sheer self-control. Yet, they can tell it's not accidental. That tension tells them you're someone who has been shaped by something real, someone who didn't just wake up with confidence but earned it piece by piece. It makes them curious about your story, your motives, your threshold, and your limits. They start paying closer attention to how you move, what you react to, and what you ignore. What gets them hooked is the fact that your energy contradicts your surroundings. You may not have the titles, resources, or spotlight that typically come with such composure, and that mismatch grabs their attention like a glitch they can't look away from. If you were loud or flashy, they would have dismissed you immediately. But restraint paired with strength is magnetic. It's rare, and rare things activate the instincts of people who've learned to spot value before the world recognizes it. That's why they noticed you, not because you tried to stand out, but because you didn't, and still did. They can't decode you, and that's exactly why they won't stop watching. Number 2, you aren't intimidated by their status, and people at the top rarely meet someone immune to hierarchy. Most people bow before titles, positions, and power. They defer automatically, speak cautiously, and measure every word, because they assume their survival depends on pleasing whoever sits at the top. But you didn't. You moved through that space like it belonged to you as much as it did to them, like their authority wasn't a force that could shape your value. That's rare. That's dangerous. And it's exactly what powerful people notice. When someone at the top meets a person who doesn't shrink, who doesn't flinch, and who doesn't perform the expected reverence, it triggers something primal. They aren't used to it. Most of their interactions are with people who are pre-programmed to respond a certain way: admiration, fear, or strategic flattery. But you bypass all of that. You aren't trying to impress them, and you aren't trying to gain favor. That independence in behavior, that refusal to let their position dictate your reaction, immediately marks you as someone exceptional. It's not arrogance. They notice that too. You're not loud, and you're not challenging just to get attention. You're calm, composed, and deliberate. You treat them like a human being, not a crown. And that makes them pay attention because they can feel the subtle shift in power dynamics. Your presence communicates something they can't create: confidence that exists without needing approval, influence that doesn't ask for validation, and a self-assuredness that doesn't bend to hierarchy. Powerful people crave novelty, but they fear unpredictability. When they encounter someone who respects boundaries yet refuses intimidation, they are both intrigued and unsettled. They realize this person isn't just a player in the game. They could be a wild card, someone whose trajectory is entirely their own. That realization keeps them hooked. They start studying your patterns, your choices, your interactions. They want to understand how you move through the world without letting their authority define you. And every subtle act of composure, every refusal to bow, every moment you exist on equal footing cements their fascination. You become a rare anomaly, someone unshakable, untouchable by hierarchy, and irresistible in the eyes of those who are used to command. Number 3, you don't compete with them, and that makes you more threatening than someone who does. Most people who encounter power react in predictable ways. They either try to impress, to outshine, or to challenge. They enter the arena with ego in tow, hoping to stake a claim, prove themselves, or test the limits of influence. But you don't operate like that. You don't rush to compete. You don't care about proving yourself in comparison to anyone, no matter how influential they are. And that is exactly why you unsettle powerful people. Powerful individuals are accustomed to rivalry. They expect pushback, they expect ambition, and they expect people trying to measure themselves against them. That's the usual rhythm of influence. They are prepared for direct challenges because they've built walls to defend against it. But you bypass all of that by not playing the expected game. You aren't looking to take their seat, and you aren't crawling for crumbs at their table. You are completely independent, moving on a trajectory that isn't dictated by hierarchy or ego. And when someone operates on their own terms, that is far more dangerous than someone openly trying to compete. What makes it magnetic is the quiet confidence behind your actions. You are fully aware of your value, yet you don't flaunt it or weaponize it. You carry yourself with a sense of purpose that is unmistakable but doesn't demand recognition. That creates a strange tension for the person with power. They can't dismiss you, they can't predict you, and they can't categorize you the way they categorize everyone else. You exist outside the normal expectations of ambition and rivalry, and that alone makes them notice, analyze, and eventually become obsessed. Powerful people are drawn to anomalies, to those who defy the scripts they've written for everyone else. By refusing to compete, you become unpredictable in a way that commands attention. They start watching your every move, trying to understand what drives you and why your presence doesn't threaten you or need them, but still has the power to disrupt the usual order. That is the kind of rare, unspoken energy that powerful people don't just respect. They become fixated on it. Number 4, your growth wasn't granted. It was self-created, and that disrupts their sense of control. Most people who rise in life do so with guidance, support, or approval from someone above them. They are given tools, opportunities, or platforms, and their progress is often traceable to someone else's influence. But your growth isn't a gift anyone handed to you. You built yourself from the ground up, piece by piece, through grit, resilience, and relentless effort. That independence is invisible to most, but someone with real power notices it instantly, and it makes them uneasy in the best possible way. Powerful people are used to control. They measure influence in tangible ways: who they can shape, who owes them loyalty, who exists because of them. When they encounter someone whose success isn't tied to their approval, it throws them off balance. You don't need their validation. You don't require their endorsement. Your trajectory is yours alone, and that is not something they can influence, manage, or predict. That independence is magnetic because it represents a kind of freedom they rarely see, someone who has been forged by life's raw edges rather than curated by the favor of others. It's not about rebellion or defiance. It's the quiet assurance that comes from knowing your own worth, earned through your own actions. You carry a self-made authority that doesn't shout, but it resonates in ways others can't ignore. For someone accustomed to crafting or controlling narratives, seeing someone who doesn't fit into any narrative they recognize is captivating. It makes them pause, reevaluate, and obsess over what they are witnessing. The fascinating part is that this type of growth cannot be replicated or bought. They can't hand you opportunities and watch you crumble under their influence. They can't predict your next move or anticipate your limits because you've always operated outside the structures most people rely on. That unpredictability, combined with undeniable competence, commands attention. What they see is not just talent or potential, it's self-sufficiency perfected. And once powerful people notice someone whose growth they didn't orchestrate, they can't stop watching, analyzing, and trying to understand the force that built itself entirely without them. Number 5, you've mastered restraint, and restraint signals someone who understands consequences. Most people think boldness and visibility are the quickest paths to influence. They raise their voices, make themselves seen, and push aggressively to get noticed. But you don't operate that way. You've learned the subtle power of restraint, the art of holding back when every instinct might scream to act, speak, or react. You understand that true strength isn't measured by how loudly you assert yourself, but by how wisely you deploy your energy. That mastery is exactly what grabs the attention of someone with power. Powerful individuals are constantly surrounded by chaos, people trying too hard, stepping too far, or revealing more than they should. They watch carefully for mistakes, lapses in judgment, and moments of weakness, because those are the opportunities that create advantage. But when they meet someone like you, someone who moves deliberately, speaks when necessary, and chooses silence over noise, it unsettles them. They recognize instantly that you understand consequences in a way most people never will. Your restraint communicates depth, control, and a long-term perspective that can't be faked. It's not passivity, it's intention. Every choice you make reflects awareness, not impulse. That makes powerful people curious because restraint implies planning, patience, and a mind operating on a level they can't casually read. They begin to notice the small things, how you react under pressure, what you allow to slide, what you protect fiercely. Every measured move signals someone who has internalized the lessons of life and learned how to wield themselves effectively. Restraint also makes you unpredictable in a controlled way. Most people overexpose themselves, revealing patterns that are easy to anticipate. But you don't. You reveal only what you choose to, and the rest remains untouchable. That combination, visibility and moderation and invisibility and strategy, is intoxicating to someone with influence. It's rare, and it commands attention. Powerful people can sense that you're not reckless, and they recognize the kind of danger that comes from someone who understands limits and consequences better than they do. That's why, once they notice you, they don't look away. They study your moves, analyze your restraint, and become captivated by the quiet but undeniable power you carry. Number 6, you don't betray your internal state, and that unsettles people who rely on reading others. Most people wear their emotions on their sleeves, consciously or not. Anger leaks out in subtle expressions, excitement bursts through tone, fear bends posture, and doubt echoes in hesitation. Powerful people are trained to spot these cues instantly. They can read intentions, weaknesses, and desires like open books. But you don't give them that luxury. You've learned to hold your internal state like a secret weapon, never revealing more than necessary, never letting your emotions dictate how others perceive you. That ability alone makes you magnetic and unnerving to someone who thrives on reading people. When they encounter you, they realize quickly that their usual tools for assessment don't work. They can't predict your reactions. They can't anticipate your next move. And they can't measure your energy in ways that make them feel in control. You might smile, nod, or stay silent, but none of it reveals the full story. That subtlety forces them to pay closer attention. They begin to notice patterns, analyze micro-reactions, and search for the slightest hint of vulnerability. But with you, there's nothing to exploit, only the surface of someone fully aware of themselves and fully composed under observation. What captivates them is not just the control you have over your emotions, it's the discipline that created it. You've experienced enough of life's pressures to understand how destructive unchecked reactions can be. And you've chosen mastery over instinct. That balance makes you unpredictable without being reckless, private without being cold, and aware without being defensive. Powerful people are used to influencing others by leveraging their visible responses. But with you, that strategy fails. They realize that you operate independently of their influence, guided by your own internal compass. That realization is disarming, exciting, and fascinating. They are drawn to the mystery of your composure, compelled to understand what drives it, and ultimately fixated on the person who doesn't give them the usual cues. By keeping your internal state guarded, you become not just observed but studied, not just respected but impossible to ignore. Number 7, you have a way of listening that makes them realize how poorly others listen to them. Most people hear only what they want to hear, or they wait impatiently for their turn to speak. Even in the presence of someone powerful, conversations are often filled with noise, flattery, and shallow responses. But you don't operate like that. You listen fully. You absorb what is being said, process it deeply, and respond in ways that reveal not just attention, but understanding. That kind of listening is rare, and for someone who is constantly surrounded by people who only perform the act of hearing, it becomes unforgettable. Powerful people are used to being on display. They are accustomed to statements designed to impress, to reactions engineered to please, and to people who respond according to what they think is expected. When someone like you listens genuinely, it's disarming. They notice the subtleties, the way you catch inconsistencies without pointing them out, the way your responses reflect comprehension rather than strategy, the way you acknowledge their words without trying to twist them. That level of attention forces them to realize how few people truly engage with them. Your listening isn't passive, it's active, intentional, and intelligent. You make them feel heard without needing to elevate yourself or insert unnecessary commentary. This creates a strange dynamic. They want to speak more, reveal more, and test your reactions, yet they can't manipulate your responses because your focus isn't on them, it's on understanding. That makes you rare and intriguing. The impact of this subtle skill is profound. They begin to notice patterns in their own behavior they hadn't acknowledged before. They start evaluating the quality of engagement they allow into their lives. Your presence highlights the difference between empty attention and meaningful connection. And in a world where influence often relies on who can dominate conversation, your ability to listen deeply without agenda becomes magnetic. They don't just respect you, they study you. They analyze how you absorb, interpret, and respond. They become fascinated by the clarity and depth your attention brings, because it's a mirror showing them what they never get elsewhere. By simply listening, you position yourself as someone who operates on a level most people never reach, and that is why powerful people can't stop noticing you. Number 8, you are inconveniently honest, not recklessly honest, and they can't find that combination often. Honesty is a tricky thing around people with power. Most either lie to protect themselves or overshare to prove their boldness. Few people get the balance right, but you do. Your honesty isn't reckless. It's precise. You speak truths that matter at the right time, in the right way, without creating unnecessary drama. And powerful people notice that immediately because it's rare to find someone who can be real without being a liability. When they interact with you, they realize that your words carry weight. You aren't trying to impress, manipulate, or curry favor. You don't twist the truth to fit a narrative, and you don't hide behind politeness to mask what you know. That makes you both reliable and unpredictable. They know what you say is genuine, but they can't predict how or when you'll choose to reveal it. That combination, transparency without chaos, is magnetic to someone used to people performing around them. What makes this particularly compelling is that your honesty forces reflection. People with influence are constantly surrounded by yes people, strategists, and opportunists. They are used to being told what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. When you speak truthfully, you disrupt that pattern. You make them pause, reconsider, and evaluate things they might have overlooked. You expose realities without confrontation, and that subtle disruption draws attention. They are intrigued because they see that your honesty isn't impulsive, it's controlled. You understand the power of your words and the impact they carry, which makes them pay attention in a way most people cannot. They start observing how you navigate situations, how you choose which truths to reveal, and how your integrity creates influence without theatrics. In a world where honesty is often disguised, exaggerated, or weaponized, your balance of inconvenient and deliberate truth becomes a rare force. Powerful people don't just notice it. They become fascinated, studying the way you operate and trying to understand how someone can be so straightforward without undermining themselves. Your honesty doesn't just make you seen, it makes you unforgettable. Number 9, you don't chase validation, and that forces them to reevaluate your value. Most people measure themselves through the eyes of others, constantly seeking approval, recognition, or affirmation. They adjust their behavior, tone, and choices to fit expectations, especially around those with influence. You don't operate that way. You move through the world confident in your own worth, independent of anyone's praise or judgment. That alone makes powerful people take notice, because it breaks the patterns they're used to seeing. When someone with influence encounters a person who doesn't need validation, it disrupts their perception. They can't pigeonhole you, can't predict your reactions, and can't manipulate your sense of self. You aren't climbing a ladder they control, and you aren't performing for their acknowledgement. That independence is rare, and powerful people are instinctively drawn to it. They start to observe how you carry yourself, how you make decisions, and how your focus isn't swayed by their presence or opinion. What fascinates them is that your self-assuredness doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from understanding your value and not letting external recognition define you. That level of internal clarity is unusual, especially around people who are used to commanding influence over others. Your confidence, quiet but firm, signals that you're operating on your own terms. They begin to realize that your trajectory isn't tied to them, yet your actions still have weight and impact in spaces they notice. This creates a subtle magnetic tension. Powerful people are used to being the reference point for everyone around them, yet you exist outside that gravitational pull. They can't assign your worth based on proximity, compliance, or flattery. Instead, they are forced to assess it objectively, and that makes them obsessively attentive. By refusing to chase validation, you establish a rare authority, one that is self-contained, undeniable, and impossible to manipulate. That's why once they notice you, they don't just acknowledge you. They study you, analyze your confidence, and try to understand the source of a value that no one can grant or take away. You are untethered from expectation, and that makes you unforgettable to those who thought they had seen it all. Number 10, you can detach without bitterness, and powerful people don't know how to handle that. Most people struggle with detachment. When connections, opportunities, or situations don't serve them, they cling, overreact, or carry resentment. Their emotions linger, their judgment clouds, and their energy becomes predictable. You don't operate that way. You understand that walking away doesn't require hostility or bitterness. It simply requires clarity, self-respect, and an unshakable sense of your own path. That kind of detachment is rare, and it's exactly what makes someone with influence take notice. Powerful people are used to leveraging emotional ties. They understand relationships, favors, and loyalty as currency, and they are accustomed to people reacting in ways they can anticipate. When they meet someone who can exit a situation gracefully, without drama or need for justification, it disrupts their expectations. They notice the quiet confidence in your choice to step back, the absence of emotional baggage, and the way your departure doesn't diminish your presence. It amplifies it. That ability signals independence, strength, and a level of self-mastery they rarely encounter. What fascinates them is that detachment in your hands isn't defensive. It's deliberate. You choose where to invest your energy, who to engage with, and when to walk away. That kind of strategic disengagement is magnetic because it carries power without aggression. You aren't leaving because you're hurt or powerless. You're leaving because you are in control. You define the boundaries of your world, and that makes you unpredictable in ways that intrigue and unsettle those accustomed to influence over outcomes. The subtlety of this power lies in its quietness. It doesn't announce itself. It commands attention through the absence of dependence and the refusal to participate in unnecessary conflict. Powerful people are drawn to that energy because it's unlike anything they encounter daily. They see someone who doesn't need their validation, who doesn't negotiate their self-worth, and who can step away without a trace of bitterness. That capability becomes unforgettable, and they find themselves analyzing, studying, and trying to understand how someone can exist so fully while remaining untouchable. In your detachment, they see freedom, and that is irresistible. Number 11. You understand the dark side of people without demonizing them. Most people see flaws, manipulation, ambition, or selfishness and immediately react, sometimes with fear, judgment, or moral superiority. They label people as good or bad and treat the world in black and white terms. You don't operate that way. You recognize the dark side in others, but you don't overreact or let it control your perception. You see motives, insecurities, and shadows clearly, yet you process them with nuance, understanding, and composure. That ability to perceive without being consumed is rare, and it captivates powerful people instantly. People with influence are constantly surrounded by ego, manipulation, and hidden agendas. They are used to reading reactions, to gauge loyalty, vulnerability, and trust. When they meet someone who can observe darkness without moral panic, they are unsettled in a fascinating way. You don't flinch at ambition or deceit. You don't try to punish or control it. Instead, you recognize it, analyze it, and navigate it intelligently. That gives you a presence that is steady, unshakable, and impossible to intimidate. Your understanding of human nature signals depth. You move through interactions with the awareness that people are rarely purely good or purely bad. That awareness allows you to respond appropriately, influence subtly, and maintain control without aggression. Powerful people notice this because most are accustomed to predictable reactions: fear, flattery, confrontation. You defy that pattern, making them pay attention and study you, trying to figure out how someone can remain both empathetic and untouchable in the face of human flaws. What makes this trait particularly magnetic is that it reflects wisdom and emotional intelligence. You see reality clearly, and you operate from it without getting caught in the chaos that ensnares most people. Your presence communicates that you are safe to interact with, but cannot be manipulated. Powerful people are drawn to that balance. They want to understand it, mimic it, or at least keep you close enough to learn from it. Your ability to navigate the dark side without losing yourself is a rare combination that commands attention, respect, and fascination from those who rarely meet anyone capable of such equilibrium. Number 12. You didn't crumble in the moment when most people would have, and they noticed the crack that never formed. Life throws moments at us that are designed to break people, whether it's pressure, judgment, confrontation, or expectation. Most people bend under it, they overreact, falter, panic, or show cracks that everyone around them can see. But you didn't. In the moments that could have exposed weakness, you held yourself together. You didn't just survive the pressure, you controlled it, absorbed it, and moved through it with composure that almost feels effortless. Powerful people notice that immediately because they are trained to spot cracks, to exploit them, and to gauge strength by how someone handles strain. What makes this particularly striking is that you didn't need validation or recognition while under pressure. You didn't perform resilience for anyone's benefit. You weren't acting brave, you were simply steady. That calm presence in the face of stress signals an internal strength that isn't dependent on external factors. It communicates that you are grounded, reliable, and fully aware of your capabilities. For someone accustomed to seeing people break or falter, this is both magnetic and unsettling. They start studying how you respond, the subtle cues in your posture, tone, and decisions. They notice how you weigh risks, absorb tension, and emerge from challenging situations without damage to your confidence or focus. That ability to remain composed under pressure is more powerful than charm, wit, or intelligence, because it signals control over your own mind and reactions. It also signals that you are not easily manipulated. People with influence often rely on stress, expectation, and pressure to test loyalty, patience, and competence. You defy those tests simply by existing in your own strength. That invisible armor, the crack that never formed, is what makes them pay attention, analyze your every move, and start to understand that you operate on a level most cannot reach. They realize they are dealing with someone rare, someone who doesn't just withstand pressure but transforms it into quiet authority. And once that realization hits, they cannot stop watching, measuring, and admiring the resilience they can't replicate. Number 13, you ask questions that expose the truth behind their confidence. Most people ask questions to fill silence, to appear curious, or to confirm what they already know. They're rarely designed to provoke real thought. You, however, operate differently. Your questions aren't casual. They are precise, subtle, and deliberate. They dig past surface-level conversations and push toward the heart of truth. You don't ask questions to impress or to flatter. You ask to understand, to uncover, and to reveal what is usually hidden beneath the polished exterior. That approach is magnetic to powerful people because it challenges them in ways they rarely encounter. Powerful individuals are constantly surrounded by people who nod, agree, or echo their opinions. Their confidence is reinforced by others' predictable responses, creating an illusion of infallibility. When you ask questions that bypass this reinforcement, you force them to confront gaps, contradictions, or assumptions in their own reasoning. The subtlety matters. You're not attacking, you're probing, and that makes them take notice. They realize quickly that you're capable of understanding complexity, reading between the lines, and grasping the motives and mechanics that most people miss entirely. The impact of this is twofold. First, it reveals that your intelligence and awareness operate on a level that can match or even surpass theirs. Second, it creates a subtle tension. They are confident, yes, but suddenly they see that their assumptions are being tested in real time, not by a threat or competitor, but by someone whose curiosity is sharp, focused, and disarming. Your questions don't just extract information. They expose nuance, illuminate hidden patterns, and provoke reflection. This is the kind of attention that powerful people rarely receive because most interactions are filtered, transactional, or performative. When you ask questions that expose deeper truths, you signal that you are someone who cannot be underestimated, manipulated, or easily dismissed. That realization sticks. They begin to study how you frame inquiries, what you notice, and how your mind operates under observation. You become memorable not just for what you know, but for the clarity and precision with which you draw out the truth that even they didn't see. That skill turns casual attention into fascination, and fascination into obsession. Number 14. You carry the kind of potential that threatens to become power, not just admire it. Most people who catch the attention of those with influence do so because they impress, entertain, or support. They showcase what they have in the present, but rarely hint at what they could become. You are different. There's an unmistakable energy about you, a quiet, relentless potential that suggests your trajectory isn't just upward, it's unstoppable. Powerful people notice not just what you are now, but the inevitability of what you could become. And that realization is both magnetic and unsettling. It's not about arrogance or boasting. Your presence simply radiates competence, focus, and the ability to grow beyond expectations. You carry ideas, skills, and resilience in ways that suggest your influence will one day rival or even surpass theirs. That latent force doesn't need to be proclaimed. It's visible in your decisions, your calm under pressure, and the way you navigate environments designed to limit others. Powerful people instinctively sense it because they are trained to recognize potential that can't be contained or controlled. What makes it particularly compelling is that you don't seek validation or permission to grow. Your ambition is self-propelled, your curiosity is insatiable, and your direction is internally guided. You aren't competing for their attention, but your trajectory forces them to acknowledge your significance. That subtle self-made momentum threatens the illusion of control they have over influence and success, which makes them watch you more closely, analyze every move, and become obsessed with understanding your path. They are drawn to you not just for what you are, but for what you represent, a force that could reshape the landscape around them if left unchecked. You carry an energy that suggests independence, mastery, and inevitable evolution. Powerful people respect those who can rival them intellectually or strategically, and even more, they are fascinated by those whose growth is self-generated and impossible to redirect. You are not a passive admirer or a temporary ally. You are someone who could one day define power itself, and that is why they cannot stop noticing you. When someone with real power starts noticing you, it's never random. Every detail they observe, the tension you carry, the calm confidence in your presence, the way you listen and act without needing validation, paints a picture of someone who operates on a completely different level. They see restraint where others reveal weakness, honesty where most hide behind performance, and potential that isn't just impressive but inevitable. You don't need to compete, you don't chase approval, and you don't crumble under pressure. Every action, every choice, and every quiet strength signals independence, self-mastery, and a kind of influence that cannot be controlled or predicted. This combination makes you unforgettable. Powerful people are drawn to it because it disrupts their expectations, challenges their assumptions, and keeps them coming back for more. They don't just notice you, they analyze you, study you, and become captivated by the presence of someone who is rare, self-made, and quietly unstoppable. You exist in a space most people can't reach, and that's what makes you magnetic. If you've watched this far, you now understand what it looks like when someone powerful truly sees you. The subtle signs, the quiet strengths, and the invisible traits that draw attention without effort. These are the qualities that separate the remarkable from the ordinary, the unforgettable from the overlooked. And now, it's your turn to recognize them in yourself and leverage them in the world around you. If this video gave you insights that made you pause and think, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Like the video if it resonated with you, comment below with your thoughts or experiences, and share it with anyone who needs to understand the invisible power they carry. The more you embrace these truths, the more you'll realize just how magnetic you can be. Stay blessed always.